I've just completed my first year of college at Muskegon Community College, and while I've learned a lot in the past 2 semesters, there seemed to be one thing that my professors were really pushing forward: critical thinking. It's the idea that you should not take things at face value, and instead dive into things to figure out what your stance on the topic at hand is. I believe that it is an important thing to learn because it involves you to take a moment to think. This is exactly what I did in my Humanities 195 class. Towards the end of the semester, we were introduced to the term life affirmation. This was defined as the belief that life is good and worth living. It also involves letting go of the fear of death and excess baggage. My mind was drawn to the first part of the definition, life is good and worth living, and while I don't want to die, I wondered why it was that people believed that life was good and worth living. I took a literal approach to this question rather than asking what makes people happy. The article, What Makes Life Worth Living, from APA.org by political scientist Jay Chamberlain, is opened with the sentence, "As positive psychology research shows, it is not material goods that make our lives rich and fulfilling, but rather work, love, play, and service to others." The article ends with the quote by Christopher Peterson, who has a PhD, "There is, of course, no single answer to the question of what makes life worth living," says Peterson. Our hope is to underscore the importance of the question and variety of possible answers. The first part of this quote seems to claim that there is not an exclusive answer to whether life is worth living or not. This makes sense when you think about it, though. It's a question that will have a subjective answer because different people are subject to different things. Naturally, some of these things will be good and some will be not so good. Some people will end up developing depression, and some people who have depression might end up taking their own life, showing the answer to whether or not they think life is worth living. You might think that there aren't many people who are depressed. In reality, the number might be higher than you think. About 10% of Americans are affected by depression in a 1-year period. That is about 19 million Americans. This comes from allaboutdepression.com. And a lot of people know that depression isn't good, but don't know exactly what it is. For those people, depression is defined as a mental illness that is characterized as persistent sadness and lack of interest or pleasure in previously rewarding or enjoyable activities. This would mean that people with depression will likely not find life to be good. So, in a 1-year period for people with depression, which is 10% of people in the United States, life affirmation will be a false ideal, while the rest of the people might completely agree with life affirmation. Again, it's subjective.